I want to ask you guys again, I'm being a little philosophical tonight. I know it's not 3 o'clock in the morning, but alas, let's try. Are we willing to pay the price for war? Because the reality is that if we're going to cut Russian oil off, we know that that's going to destabilise the oil market. The oil market goes through the roof. It's already $2 a litre for petrol, and people lose their collective. You guys have worked, in and formerly in breakfast radio. You know newspapers. You know how these things go. Erin, obviously, from the family of which you come, the price of war is rather obvious. But let's be really straight up. Do you think that we are actually willing to pay the cost, to have a level of inconvenience for trying to take money off Putin's table?
Absolutely. And freedom is not free. And that's something that has been said many times before. I'd make a couple of points. Cost of living is tough right now for a lot of people. A lot of people are struggling. But I don't know anyone who's watching those images out of Ukraine at the moment and seeing innocent children killed in shellings who would not take a hit to the hip pocket if they thought that would end that war. The other point I'd make is the cost of war, if this were to continue to escalate, is going to be far greater than any financial impact on anyone. So I think absolutely freedom is not free, and if we want to live in a world that doesn't have those kind of things exist, then there are things we're going to do that are going to hurt us.
I hope that's the case, but we are also generations of people that have the instant gratification, the sort of, I want it to be as cushy as possible. I mean, previous generations when Australians, of course, were involved in war, there was rations, all the rest of it here. We hate discomfort, and $2 at the Bowser is going to be discomfort. Do you think that we are actually willing?
No, I don't think so. And I hate the fact that I just don't think we are, because I think a lot of people...
But what choice do we have at this stage?
Well, we don't.
We should be willing. We would all agree we should be willing. We should be absolutely taking your attitude to it, but I'm kind of with Jenny here about how I think a lot of people will react to this.
Because I don't think a lot of people can actually draw the comparison at this point in time with what we're seeing with those horrific images and our ADF over there and then our ADF here trying to stem the flow of those bloody floods and things like that. And then we're seeing, I was just looking at some of the bylines and some of the cover lines in the upcoming weekend papers in their inserts, and it's like, what to grab when the shelves are empty. And it's like, what type of world are we living at when we're having supply chain issues because our agricultural regions are completely flooded and underwater. Our transport networks are cooked as well. We saw northwestern WA completely cut off, having no food in any supermarkets for up to 4 weeks because there was a flood and the train network was derailed. So I just don't think that people are going to have to, they won't cop this. And I think cost of living is going to be the biggest election issue.
Now, Keith, obviously, where you are in Queensland, plenty of people would be able to take things in their stride a little better than some of the pampered kids in the middle of the cities. But there's a bigger issue here that I want to get to as the resources minister here, which is in the United States they can find places to start drilling for oil to try to replace the supply that would come from Russia. What can Australia do to make sure that we can somehow bring this down? Because it feels like there's only one option and it's excise, and others have said that the government's not going to do that. But as a bloke who knows where the stuff is in the ground, is there oil anywhere near Australia? Is there gas anywhere near Australia that we need to actually rip the Band-Aid off and start accessing?
Well, the answer to all of that is yes. We are the parties of freedom and liberty. Our nation has been built and defended by Australians for many decades and over a century. We know what the price is. And it is absolutely unacceptable what Putin is doing in Russia. It is unacceptable. And we need to take every action that we can possibly manage within the framework that the PM has stated. Now, look, in terms of oil and gas, yep, we've got opportunities. But these things take time to come through the pipeline. We need to be out there exploring, particularly for oil and gas offshore. We've had people in the Great Australian Bight. They've all withdrawn because of activism and court challenges and everything else. But right now, we have a game changer in the Beetaloo up in the Northern Territory. It'll produce condensate as well as gas. We've got big announcements with the Barossa, Northwest Shelf, Scarborough, all of these projects. We need to come on as quickly as possible, Paul, because we can be self-sufficient if we develop enough of our own resources.
Well, it's another argument, isn't it, to improve our own security when it comes to energy. The less reliant we are on overseas providers, the less fluctuation we'll see from things that are happening outside of our control.